We had a deal. We had a deal in Canada. You work hard, you get a house. It's obvious. Housing should be cheap in Canada. Why? We have by far the most land per capita of any G7 country. We have land, labor, and lumber. In fact, housing was always cheap in Canada until Justin Trudeau came along. Consider these facts. These hard, painful, but inescapable facts about 8 years of Justin Trudeau. In that time, the required monthly payment on an average mortgage has gone from $1,400 to $3,200. The average rent has gone from $950 to $2,200. And the average down payment has gone from $22,000 to $45,000 across Canada. In Vancouver, the Trudeau record is far worse. In his 8 years in power, the required down payment to own the average house has gone from about $60,000 to over $220,000. This is 8 years of Trudeau, in which he has doubled the cost of housing. He's done this with inflationary deficits that have forced the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates on mortgages. He's also done it by continuing to shovel billions of dollars to the government gatekeepers at city halls like Vancouver's that block construction. We have the fewest houses per capita in all of the G7 after 8 years of Trudeau, even though we have the most land to build on. It doesn't make sense. Housing is more expensive in Canada than in the United States, even though they have 10 times the people on a smaller area of land. We have, in Vancouver, is the third most overpriced housing market in the world. Worse than New York City, worse than Singapore, worse than London, England, Los Angeles, other places with far more people and far less land. This is not a problem we can blame on some faraway global phenomenon. The housing shortage and the housing inflation under 8 years of Trudeau is a homegrown problem. Enough excuses from Trudeau. He has caused this problem, and it's time that we fix it. We know the problem is that we don't have enough houses, and that drives up the cost. Vancouver City Hall, which keeps getting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of handouts from the Trudeau government, is standing in the way of our young people owning homes. $644,000 of the cost of the average house or apartment in Vancouver is the direct result of government gatekeepers at City Hall imposing permit delays, red tape, taxes, and development charges. All of that is passed on to the end buyer. It's great for the wealthy. Their home values get inflated. But it's terrible for our working class youth, our immigrants, and other outsiders that are shut out of the dream of home ownership. It's a massive transfer of wealth from the have-nots to the have-yachts. Enough of the gatekeeping. It's time to bring homes that people can afford. This should be a country that works for the people who work. If you have a job, you put in a hard day's work, you should be able to afford to buy a house and start a family. And when Pierre Poilievre is Prime Minister, we will bring home that opportunity for every single person. And here is how we're going to do it. Here's the deal. A Poilievre government will link the number of infrastructure dollars a city gets to the number of houses it allows to be completed. Governments that block construction will be fined, like with clawbacks to their federal infrastructure money. Those that get out of the way, speed up building permits and free up land to build more, will get bonuses with extra infrastructure dollars. I will require every single federally funded transit station be surrounded by high-density apartments and condos so that our young people and our seniors don't even have to own a car. They can simply get on the elevator and jump on the train or bus. We'll also sell off 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings, big, ugly, empty buildings many of them not even in use because people are now working from home. Why not sell them off and turn them into housing? We're talking about 5,000 or 6,000 buildings and other brownfield lands that are doing nothing that could be housing our working class young people across this country. We need to build millions of homes in order to bring homes that our young people, our working class, and our brilliant immigrants can afford to live in. You know, the number one cause of inequality in Canada and poverty is the housing shortage. And the gatekeepers who stand up for the privileges of the very few at the expense of the hardworking many. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, everything feels broken, with crime raging out of control in places like Vancouver, people dropping dead of drug overdoses as heroin and other drugs are flooding our streets. Everything feels broken, but most of all, the deal is broken. The deal that if you work hard, you get a house. Well, we're going to bring back that deal. And we're going to bring homes that Canadians can afford. It's the common sense of the common people united for our common home, Canada. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Next question. Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Martin McMahon with City News. I just wanted to ask about this plan you're talking about today in terms of federal money and I guess some conditions that you would attach to it. Would this be for new federal money, or would you have the capability to claw back previous commitments from previous governments?
Future. For future gas tax transfers and funding for transit projects will all be linked to getting the gatekeepers out of the way, speeding up building permits, and freeing up land to build houses across Canada. You know, according to CMHC data, which my office requested, Vancouver City Hall only approved about 6,000 housing units last year. If those numbers are true, it's a disgrace. That's the reason why our young people are living in despair in their parents' basements right across the city. It's the reason why we have record homelessness. It's the reason why our youth are crammed into 400 square foot apartments. That's not the Canadian dream. Canadians deserve better. Before Trudeau, housing was affordable and even cheap in lots of communities across this country. It's time to get the gatekeepers out of the way, build more homes, and bring homes that Canadians can afford.